social robots, so robots that interact within social environments. The first thing is, what is that? So it's kind of this amalgam of three different things. So it's you've got the physical hardware of the robot, so it's a physical, something that can physically interact with the world around it. Here it's physical sensors and actuators, and it has a physical form. You've then got the sort of the AI component to it, software design, and then some AI for things like face recognition or speech recognition, or in some cases emotion recognition, so being able to identify facial gestures of people and interpret what is that person feeling, and therefore how should I interact with them and how should I behave. So it brings those two things together, and then it also brings together social and emotional worlds as well. So you've got the physical world, you've got the virtual world, and you've got the emotional and social world. So a robot a social robot sits in the middle of those three things. So it can interact physically, it can help you pick things up, it can move things around. It can also interact with any sort of virtual environment or digital environment, so it can connect to any device or cloud service or anything like that. But then also interact with people in an emotional and social manner. So that's what a robot is. They're at the moment in sort of the market. There's this gap between expectations and reality around robots and to a certain degree AI and its capabilities and what it can bring. A lot of the expectations are fueled and informed by science fiction or fear or things like that.
Hollywood.
So thinking. Yeah, Hollywood, so thinking about, from Terminator in terms of physical robots to something like the movie Her with virtual assistants and the ability to have a completely natural conversation with an AI and a computer. That's sort of where expectations sit, and the more work that we do in this space, in the CBA Innovation Lab, around having robots interact with people, the more that we find people are constantly disappointed when they meet the robot and realize that it can't have a natural conversation with them and immediately clean their house for them or do a whole range of things they just immediately sort of expect, because the technology just isn't there yet, both in terms of things like speech recognition, face recognition, emotion recognition, things like that, but also for the physical hardware as well. There's a huge number of issues sort of around robots being able to have constant connection to cloud services as they're wandering around places like this, competing with all of you for Wi-Fi connection and stuff like that. Battery life, etc., etc. Sensors, perception, microphone clarity, etc. So that's the first place to start, is that there's this gap at the moment. Having said that, there are a huge number of opportunities within a huge number of industries for social robots driven by AI. So a couple of examples that a lot of people talk about, it's healthcare and education. So within healthcare and aged care, things like that, you've got the ability for people to age independently in their own homes with reduced social isolation, because you have a socially capable robot that is able to assist them in their daily tasks. So not only can it, as I said before, physically interact with the world around it, so it can bring that person food, water, medicine, whatever. It can perceive the world around it because of its cameras, so it can identify if the person has taken a fall and then needs to contact emergency services, or if someone is visiting or something like that. Can also connect with virtual environments, digital environments, so it can constantly be monitoring the person's vital signs and sending that off to medical services, that sort of thing. Act as a telepresence unit, so that medical people or friends or family can sort of beam in and interact with that person, as well as be a sort of a socially engage that person and interact with them on a sort of peer-to-peer basis and engage them socially. So there's a lot of opportunity there within the healthcare environment, hospitals, very much a resource-constrained industry, nurses and doctors performing a whole range of tasks that they probably shouldn't be. They're better suited to doing tasks that they're actually trained for. You can have social robots that can perform those tasks, physically moving things around, socially engaging and entertaining patients, etc., etc. And then within education, there's a lot of research going into work with sort of better tailoring learning environments for children. Again, it's a resource-constrained industry, so having social robots that can create tailored learning environments, engage children on a peer-to-peer sort of level, and also there's a big opportunity with children who have learning difficulties, so children with autism spectrum disorder and things like that. They can struggle sometimes with the amount of non-verbal communication in human-to-human interaction. And so social robots, of course, are able to strip all of that away and then sort of one layer at a time reintroduce it into interactions to help the children learn how to interact at their own pace. So there's huge opportunities within those sort of spaces, but also in retail, in transport, in hospitality, bringing to life some of the content which is currently stuck behind screens in very sort of flat and one-way communication methods, and making it sort of a two-way conversation with something that has a physical embodiment and a physical sort of personality and life to it. So that's kind of the main opportunity areas. But as I said, there's this gap between where expectations are and where the technology is at the moment. That's the current state.